Okay, our Monrovia adventure continues. We have left the Wizard of Bras. We have now come less than a mile. We're in Old Town Monrovia, and we're going to spend the rest of the day with Bonnie's daughter, who owns and operates Studio C Hair Artistry. And if you think her mother had a great story, wait till you hear the daughter's story. Okay, she's hard at work, blow drying a customer. Good morning.
Hi, Huell. Good morning to you.
Your name is?
I am Carole Anne Kaufman.
Boy, we just spent some time with your mom. What a live wire.
Isn't she amazing? She's the world expert on bras, anywhere that you'll just find.
She knows more than anybody probably in the world about bras.
You know what? I think that assertion would be absolutely correct. I can't imagine. There's nothing more to know that she could know.
And she is not a shrinking violet.
Oh, are you kidding me? The woman gets younger every year.
Now, does that rub off on you? What was it like growing up in this household?
You know what? I feel very grateful for the parents that I had. My mother was an absolute role model of feminism and hard work. My dad was another unique character himself. He was a reflexologist and a spiritual healer. So to say that I did not have an average childhood would probably be accurate.
Well, this is a beautiful little shop you've got here.
Thank you very much.
And I know you're finishing up on a customer here. She's pretty good at what she does.
Absolutely.
She's very good at what she does. Look at all these trophies over here. The catch is these trophies don't have anything to do with hairstyling, do they?
No, they sure don't.
You want to give everybody right now about a 30-second hint as to what you do?
All right, this will be a hint. See if you can guess what I do.
Wow. You get a lot of that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
That's one of the benefits of coming here to get your hair done.
Absolutely.
All right, she's finished you up, and we're going to get down to the serious business, you guessed it, of whistling, because that's what this lady does better than anybody in the whole world. Okay, now we're getting down to the serious whistling interview. I've been thinking of good whistling questions to ask you. How did you start whistling?
Well, I came from very humble beginnings, Huell. I just started whistling in my dad's truck when I was 5. He whistled all the time, and I just thought it was the neatest thing.
So your dad was a whistler?
Yeah, he was.
And how did you discover that you were a whistler?
Well, you don't really discover that you're a whistler. You just sort of whistle, and then you keep whistling, and then eventually somebody says, wow, you're a really good whistler.
Because not everybody can whistle, can they?
Well, I don't know if everybody can whistle.
Well, I mean, everybody can go.
Most people can do that. Some people wish they could do that level of excellence.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So some people can't whistle at all.
Exactly. Although I assume it's because they haven't been practicing.
Mm-hmm. So it's all about practicing.
It is all about the practice. That's what I attribute my entire career to, is 30 years of practice.
Now, are you a whistle out or a whistle in? And see, I can't even whistle in. Well, maybe I can, but not very well.
Well,
There are 2 types of whistling.
Well, there's more than 2 types of whistling, but when it comes to what you're talking about, I'm an outie, and then occasionally I'll rely on a little note to come in, but that is definitely not
an innie or an outie?
That was an innie. That was an innie.
Do
just
another
like yours.
innie. That's a richer, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's a more airy, it's not really a tune I can rely on. I haven't really practiced that for 30 years. I've been practicing whistling out. Exactly.
And what other kinds besides innies and outies?
Well, once I went to the International Whistling Convention, I found that there's a whole entire world of whistlers out there that I had no clue. So there are actually people, one of our past winners, here Chetru, he actually whistles out of his throat. He's a world champion. I have no idea how he does
What do you mean
it.
out of his throat? He's
don't-
got to use his lips.
He does use his lips to help to form the notes a little bit, but the actual notes come from his throat. Yes, there's also palatal whistling, which means you put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and that you somehow get a tune out in that way.
And I've thought of one. And I can't do this either, where you put your fingers in and go.
No, I can't do that
You can't
either.
do that at all.
No, that's a whole different technique. That's still, the philosophy is still air hitting surface, but it's a completely different approach. So I don't know how to do that. There's, of course, 2 fingers. There's the 1 finger. There's even hand whistling. In Japan last year, when I went for the International Whistling Convention in Japan, there was a hand whistler there that was one of the most incredible acts I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he did the most complex classical tune you can imagine out of his hands. The Japanese guy was incredible.
That's a whole nother thing,
It's a
though,
whole
because
nother
you're
art
using
form.
your hands.
Yes.
You're not using your mouth.
Exactly.
All right, I have lots of good whistling questions
All right.
for you. The most popular whistle, what do you think it is?
I would probably have to say it's the old Andy Griffith.
You think so?
Yeah.
But that's a specific song. What about,
Okay, that actually is probably number 1.
and that's called
That's called the wolf whistle.
the wolf whistle?
Made popular by New York construction workers.
You're kidding.
Well, I'm kidding, but yeah, it's probably true.
And it was mainly men whistling at women walking by.
That's right. And
Hence the name the wolf whistle.
yeah, exactly.
But now women are wolf whistling at men.
Well, it's true. There's equality for all whistlers everywhere. At least that is what I'm trying to create. Because if you notice, if you look around at the International Whistling Convention or you look around at the average number of whistlers out there, you're going to find that there's more male whistlers than there are female
Why
whistlers.
is that?
I believe it's because there used to be a culture in this country and in other cultures that it wasn't ladylike or appropriate for women to whistle. And so over the years, I think people forgot why women weren't supposed to whistle.
It wasn't ladylike to whistle?
Something happened after the 1800s because at that time there was whistling orchestras and other things that were involving women and whistling. And then, you transition into, if you remember back to the 1940s, it kind of had transitioned into men whistling with the big band, but all of a sudden the women were nowhere to be found. And that culture has just continued. And so even at the whistling convention, you'll find that there's 10 women to 40 men.
This is amazing history. Your mother with the bras
Yeah.
and you with the whistling. It just goes to prove how fascinating almost any subject is if you really stop and study it and learn it.
Oh, the thing that I found most incredible was after I went to the first convention, my friend told me that there was an article in Reader's Digest, so I ran off to North Carolina to give it a try, and I won second place. I won first runner-up, I called it.
In your first contest?
In my first try, and it was absolutely exciting. And when I got back, I found something really interesting, is that suddenly I was an amazing whistler. Right? Because I had a trophy and because I had a medal, people looked at me different. People treated me different. And that was the beginning of what I would call my whistling career.
Your empowerment.
Yeah, and it really came from having some recognition from the outside, which totally surprised me.
There's a whole world of whistlers.
There's a whole world, there's a whole culture. The whistling conventions takes place every year or every other year in North
I
Carolina.
can only imagine what that sounds
Oh,
like.
it's amazing. You have every part of the spectrum that you can imagine from different types of whistling. The way that the competition actually works is that we start off with a preliminary round, and each person, if you're going for the grand championship, as I'm competing for, you compete in the popular category, and then again you compete in the classical category. Then there's a list of finalists, and then again you do a popular and then a classical tune.
You cover the whole spectrum.
You have to do absolutely everything.
And I was just thinking about this too. One of the great things about whistling is that it is irrespective of age or race or gender or anything. Anybody, if they practice at it or use any time learning how to do it, anybody can